Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Welcome to another workshop conducted by MindTribe. I am Ria Sawant and I work as a psychologist at MindTribe. We have Solanki Paul, a psychologist at MindTribe, who will be presenting a workshop on unmasking your triggers. I hope we have a good interactive session today. Before we begin, there are a few rules that need to be followed. So the first rule is keep your cameras and mics off. If you have any doubt, open your mic or speak up, or you can type in the chat box. Kindly maintain the decorum. Over to you, Solanki.
Thank you, Ria. Welcome, everyone. My name is Solanki Paul. Today, I will be presenting a workshop on unmasking your triggers. I am a counseling psychologist of MindTribe. As a mental health professional, I have an experience of 5 years dealing with cases of anxiety, depression, stress, emotional triggering, relationship issues, among the few others. And also, I have a master's degree in applied psychology with a clinical specialization. Thank you for your patience, and we will begin shortly. And with me, there is Ria Sawant, another Mind Tribe psychologist with us, who will be co hosting with me this workshop. Also, along with that, there is Harshita Jani, who will be recording this workshop till the end, and you will be provided with the recording afterwards. Thank you. So, let us begin. So, is today's topic is on unmasking your triggers. That is understanding and managing your emotional reactions. Now, before we begin, there are some ground rules we have to follow. Firstly, I would like everyone to have a very interactive session over here and have fun throughout the entire workshop. But to maintain the chaos, I would like everyone to keep their audios and videos off. If you have any question or doubt, or if you want to share anything, please raise your hand, and when called, unmute yourself. Also, use the chat box for any interaction. Lastly, this presentation is the intellectual property of MindTribe and it will be recorded. So I would request you all not to record it or take any screenshot of it. Okay, thank you. So let us begin with an ice-breaking question. So, how do you feel today? Now, in order to help you understand and answer this question, I have divided the emotions into four zones of color: blue, green, yellow, and red. So, blue signifies low energy and low motivation to participate. Green signifies attentive and feeling positive overall. Yellow signifies uncomfortable and need to focus, and red signifies full of negative emotions. You can answer the whatever emotion that you are feeling right now in the chat box with the name of the color. Okay, I can see people are answering. Okay, someone is saying red, someone is saying blue and yellow, red, blue, yellow, green. Okay, someone has raised their hand. Ankita, would you like to go?
Uh, and I am feeling in green zone right now.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Uh, Also, everyone, please keep your mics mute. So I would like everyone has given their answers in the chat box, and I can see there is a multitude of answers. There are green, there are blue, there are red. So those who are feeling green, I would give them a thumbs up and thank you for sharing. And those who are feeling a bit of red or blue, I would like to know help you like to move towards green towards the end of the workshop. Okay. So moving on, Now, there are some few questions like which leads to emotional triggering. Like one of the question is, how do you feel when you have to wait in a long line? So, if anyone wants to answer that, you can raise your hand or you can type it in the chat box. Okay, Ananya has raised her hand. Ananya, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I answer all the four questions in one go?
Now we are talking about the first question, so please go ahead with the first one only. We will go
Okay.
towards the next in the end.
Okay, sure. So for me, it's not that tiring or exhausting because I practice patience and just directing my mind to something else, like observing the surroundings, the people. It's my way to like distract my mind from the fact that I have to wait in a long line for a long time. So I just take observations of my surrounding and like make it a fun activity.
Okay, that's good to know, Ananya. Thank you for sharing that. Yes,
Thank
patience
you.
is a very important thing that we need to have, and people are also answering in the chat box that I am okay with standing in line. Sometimes I make friends. That's very good. Making new friends and sharing your experience with them. And so, patience is a very good thing to have when you have to wait. Okay, someone has raised her hand.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see?
I think Rakshita firstly has raised her hand. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends on the situation. For example, if I'm standing in a line for some exam, like they'll be checking and all. So there I feel a bit nervous because the exam is near and it's about the time before exam. And if
Yes.
I'm waiting in a queue where I have to pay a bill or something, I would feel restless and boring. It
Oh,
depends, like that. If you're waiting in a queue for some hotel or something with friends, then it's very uh, enjoying. Like you can have a conversation and all of that. So it depends on the situation, basically.
yes. Rakshita, very rightly put. Thank you for mentioning that. It depends on the situation to situation and how you are feeling in that exact moment. So sometimes you might be patient, but sometimes some other things might be going on which might not be able to help you like retain your patience. Yes, Kapil, you were saying
Yes,
something?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So, ma'am, actually, a lot of things we pick up from the environment. So, in
Yes.
India, we see when we grow up, everybody is in hurry, whether on the roads, whether in the line, everybody wants to jump the line, and everybody wants to get his number first. Everybody wants to overtake the other car. That is a culture, and that's what we learn. And I also used to be uncomfortable in long lines earlier. But as now, with time, I have learned to be more happy with myself, and I've become more patient. Now I feel that I have no problem in waiting in a line for an hours also.
Okay.
So
That's
yes, ma'am.
that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that you have gone through a journey from being impatient or uncomfortable to the point that now you are comfortable with it. Thank you for sharing
Yes,
that. Okay, Chandni, would you like to go ahead next?
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. So, I agree with all the viewpoints that the other speakers also gave. For me, standing in a long line generally depends on what the situation is, of how my day has unfolded. Has it been that I've gone through an incident where I'm already irritated from before, or I'm feeling down? So for me, usually, if there are no external factors affecting my mood, I would be calm because I do not like to be rude to people in a public space. I try to be more friendly to people. So in that situation, I would keep my calm, or if I have my near dear ones with me, I would have them keep me a bit sane and keep me patient. But it usually depends on how my mood for the day is. I try not to be rude to people who I don't know or who are near to me, but there are points I feel when I am irritated, I might react in a certain way, which is kind of unintentional. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, moving on to the next thing, that how do you feel when there is a sudden change in your plans? Would someone like to go ahead? Okay, I see Ankita raising her hand. Yes, Ankita, would you like to go ahead?
यस मैम। मैम अगर मेरे प्लान में मुझे लगता है कि कोई चेंज आने वाला है या फिर कोई चेंज सडन चेंज हुआ है तो मैं पहले एक्सेप्टेंस फील करती हूँ और उसकी तरफ एक पॉजिटिव आउटलुक देख के चलती हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि चेंज जो होता है, सडन चेंज, वो लाइफ का एक पार्ट होता है और हमें किस तरीके से उसमें एडजस्ट करना है ये सिचुएशंस हमें सिखाती हैं। तो हमें पॉजिटिव आउटलुक उसकी तरफ रखना चाहिए।
Okay, thank you for sharing that. That's a very positive viewpoint. Shubhi, would you like to go next?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you were saying something.
Yes, ma'am. I try to prepare for the next plan.
Okay, okay, okay. Ananya, would you like to go next?
Yes, ma'am. For me, initially it's like I get a little overwhelmed because personally I don't like changes, be it small or the bigger ones. But then I try to compensate and try to realize like sometimes the emotions also change if there is a sudden change, like from excitement to it can be anything from excitement to worry or distress or even feeling irritated even that why it's happening, because sometimes you're too focused on the plan that you don't realize that yeah, some things can even change with time in accordance to the plan, or within days something can happen for a future plan, like for the weekend or anything can happen. But if it does after the overwhelming and the triggering part, I try to calm myself down and understand that no, the need of the hour is to adjust and to plan accordingly for the next step, because ultimately we have to like go through the day with the changed plan. So the ultimate goal is to like execute the change in the plan in a better way, in a positive manner.
That's very rightly put, Ananya. Thank you for mentioning that. And I can also see that people have answered in the chat box, like initially there is panic, then go with the flow with the plan. So, yes, sometimes when we have a sudden change in plan, the suddenness or surprise might sometimes shock us, or we might not deal well with it. But after that, when we adjust towards it, I think we can have the flow of the plan with our everyday routine. Yes. Coming back to Rakshita and Shubhi next. Because we are running short on time, so I would like to go with the third question. How do you feel when you miss an important deadline? So, Rakshita, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, like if the deadline is planned by me only, I think it will be a kind of a self sabotage for some time. And yeah, I would feel frustrated and all of that, and wouldn't do anything productive for some time. And if it is given by somebody else, then yeah, I would try to take some more time from them and do the thing accordingly.
Yes, yes. Sometimes, when there is a missing of important deadline, we feel that we regret or we have a feeling of sense of failure sometimes. But with time, we might accept that it is okay, because at the end of the day, we are also human. So mistakes happens from us. There are people who have answered in the chat box. I get disappointed in myself, terrible and disappointed with myself. That is okay, but sometimes with the disappointment, the thing is we try to accept that as well. We feel overwhelmed at that time, but yes, then we try to be chill, as put by Alifa. Okay, the last question, that is, how do you feel when you get into conflict with someone? Chandni, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, so for me, I try not getting into conflicts with people because I don't like confrontation. It's been multiple times that if I have had a fight with somebody or I have been required to in certain teamwork like call them out, I try to run away from that responsibility because I can't take that entire situation of having somebody fight, because then it's more of that fear of somebody leaving you, and it just gets too overwhelming for me at a point where I would be very emotional, because for me, I'm a people pleaser. I feel I just like I want people to stay around me, and for that, there are points where I feel I avoid conflict. Like I would not call them out. I may just discuss it with my near ones, but then it's the point that I try running away from conflict because I have this fear that I don't want to get into a fight with somebody. They know my deepest points which could hurt me in the future, or I don't want them discussing my life with another person. So those are the points where I avoid getting on a person's bad side, because I don't want anything to come to like haunt me back. So yeah.
Okay, Chandni, very rightly put. I think we will be discussing about different types of stress responses as well to emotionally triggering situation. So whatever that you have said that you might not try to confront it. So it might be for some people it might be wrong or it might be right, but it is okay as well. And throughout the entire workshop, we will learn about that. There is some people who has also written in the chat box, like depends on who it is. If they are close to me, it breaks me down entirely and I can manage if it's an acquaintance. I just really hate conflict and have a dreaded fear of abandonment. Yes, we do have this fear, and sometimes the intensity also varies. So this workshop will help you to understand the intensity of your emotion. So I will come back to you guys a bit later on. We will just move ahead with the presentation. Okay. Okay, so moving forward, oops, there is a ad break of MindTribe regarding the individual one-on-one session. That is, it provides you with individual session that help you in personal growth, problem solving, and goal setting. And also, there are some misconceptions that we have about counseling. That is, counseling for those who are sick, but it is not actually that. It is for those who want to overcome their daily mental health challenges and want to equip themselves better. Okay, so why should we choose Mind Tribe? Because we have highly talented counselors. We provide sessions in affordable charges. The first session is free, and we also provide affordable packages from time to time. Lastly, if you have any questions right now regarding this, we can take that, or in the later half of the workshop at the end, I will be providing you with further details about it. Okay. Someone is asking, Bhuvi, yes, the session is recorded. Okay. Then moving on with the original presentation. So today's workshop is around emotions and emotional triggering. So, what do you understand by the word emotions and emotional triggering? Would someone like to go ahead? Okay, Ankita has raised her hand. Ankita, would you like to go ahead?
And emotional triggering is kind of triggering जिसमें हमको हमारे इमोशंस बहुत ज़्यादा हिट हो जाते हैं ऐसी सिचुएशन जिनमें हमारे इमोशंस बहुत ज़्यादा हिट कर जाते हैं और जो हमारा जो रिस्पॉन्स होता है एक पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन की तरफ वो बहुत ज़्यादा कह सकते हैं ओवरवेलम होता है
Ekdam. That is very rightly put. Emotions is something that we get triggered from certain situation. It can be in certain from certain things as well. So yes, very well put. Jazzy, would you like to go ahead next?
Good afternoon, ma'am. According to me, emotions is a type of thing that express how we are feeling, and it triggers us when we get confused in a situation that what are we going to, like we don't have exact, we don't know are we feeling happy or are we sad or what kind of news are we getting.
Yes, sometimes we don't know. We don't understand from where our emotion is getting triggered, because sometimes there is no particular reason for it. But we will throughout the entire workshop we will get to know about certain situation that might have triggered you at that point but you didn't understand at that point, but when you retrace your steps back you might know that this is something, this was happening for the past few days that led to the triggering. Yes, someone is saying that something that takes us back to trauma. Yes, certain situation or even memories can trigger some emotion that is not very good or helpful. And okay, Rakshita, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I feel emotions are something which makes me connect with other people and also with the work I do and the daily activities I have and almost all things which connects. Otherwise, I would feel without emotions I am a robot. And emotional triggering, I feel those are like hidden fears within us and those triggering points are trying to protect us from the future damage or something like that.
Yes, very correctly put, Rakshita. Emotions are what makes us humans, or else we would be robots. Emotions are something that shows that we have passion towards anything. Sometimes sadness also shows that we are affected by something, or else we wouldn't be. So, moving on with the presentation. So, emotion are reactions that human beings experience in response to certain events or situation. Someone has also written that it is related to behaviorism. Yes, our physiological and behavioral responses are related to our emotions. And sometimes when we feel angry, we might feel that our body temperature is increasing, or when we are scared, we just feel numb, or we feel that our hands are getting cold. Sometimes when we are anxious we feel that our breathing is getting affected. Did that happen with anyone? Please give me a thumbs up. Yes, I can see a lot of thumbs up. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so moving on. Now, there are examples of emotion as per the emotional wheel. So, in the beginning of the workshop, I asked you guys to answer in the form of color what you are feeling. So, there is blue zone, green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. So, why do we signify emotion with colors? So, the colors oftentimes the shade of colors shows that whatever we are feeling. For example, warm colors like yellow and red show that we are showing passion or very high energy. So, angry, excited, scared, anxious are related to that. And the cool colors like blue and green are related to somewhat of good energy, calm, happy, or sometimes it is also related to indifference or sometimes feeling slow or bored. Now, when we think about our emotions, the color that comes to our mind oftentimes comes very vibrant or very dull. So, if it is very dark and vibrant, it means that the intensity of our emotion is very high. And if it is like okay, okay, or we feel that the color is fading out, that means the intensity is not that high and we can deal with it. So, whenever the intensity is very high and we can't control it, then our problems happen and we might need to take some professional help or therapeutic support for that. Okay, someone is also writing for me, blue color is very calming. Yes, it depends on person to person. Okay, so moving on. So, the emotional triggers, as everyone has pointed it out, trauma can trigger your emotion, or any kind of painful memory can also trigger your emotion. These are all the negative emotions that I'm talking about. There are emotions that are also positive. For example, some happy memory can trigger very high intensity of emotion, like you are very happy about it and you can't control yourself at that moment. You want to share it with everyone. So it can be related to painful memories, but it can be also related to some good memories as well. So triggers are essentially our emotional buttons. Like remote have buttons, we have our emotional buttons as well. Yes, someone is writing, what if red button control? Yes. We if we are in the red zone and if we feel like we are in control, that is well and good, because self coping mechanism, like whatever strategies that we use, if that is working for you, then that is well and good. Another one who Shelley has wrote is being defensive a trigger. So okay, no, that's not a trigger. Something that made you defensive is the trigger. Defensive is the reaction to the trigger. Okay. Okay, so moving on. So now, why do we need to know about our emotional triggers? Like I am talking about so much about emotional triggers. So firstly, if you know about your triggers, you will know yourself better, and also you will know to what extent you have the tolerance limit. Like till this extent you can tolerate this news or this situation. If it crosses some limit, you can't handle it, and you can manage the exposure to those situations accordingly. Also, when you understand about your triggers, your self awareness about yourself is also increasing, and you would understand yourself better and will able to manage your emotional reactions accordingly. Okay, does anyone have any questions till now? You can raise your hand or type it in the chat box. Someone is writing, can we have hidden trigger? Yes, sometimes we don't know. As we move forward with our life, we get to know that this is also a part of our trigger. So triggers are both conscious and unconscious. Sometimes we consciously know that this is something that is affecting us, and sometimes we just don't know, and later on when we think about it, we get to know that the underlying reason is because of that. Okay, so Kapil has raised his hand. Would you like to go with your question?
Yes, ma'am. So ma'am, sometimes if something unfortunate or something, some incidents which becomes a bad memory to us, so it keeps triggering and we always keep feeling bad. And then we also have sometimes, if the other person is involved, we feel very avengeful and very so. And a lot of people, when you discuss with people, they say, yeah, whatever happened happened, now move on. But it's still somewhere you not able to move on.
Yes. Firstly, it depends on person to person. So if someone is asking you, this is something that has happened to me and I have moved on, why are you not able to move on? That doesn't happen with everyone. So everyone has their own pace of moving on with their life, of accepting the news and dealing with it. So sometimes we feel like, okay, we have to adjust to the situation, but again, we are only humans. We can manage our emotional reaction to some extent, but we also have to give in to some of the urges where we are letting it go. That is, we are letting ourselves lose the control, and it's okay. But when it is going out of control, that is going out of hand, and it is hampering your day to day life, then again, I would recommend you to seek any professional help or do something else that would work for you, some self coping mechanism. And also we would be talking about some strategies in this workshop that you can also use. Okay. Okay, I will take one another question. Shelly, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is that sometimes what happens is trigger, like for me, I don't understand that I'm triggered until it's very late, and then by that time I have acted upon some things, and then later on when I am actually aware that I was triggered and I've already made the bad decisions, it's very frustrating to realize, and then it feels kind of disconnected with yourself, because you know that as a practical person you wouldn't do it when in your right mind. So
Yes.
how to manage that part?
Yes. So when we are actually emotionally triggered at that moment, we wouldn't be, we again, we are humans, we wouldn't be able to realize it at that moment. But after that, when you realize that this is something that you have could have handled differently, so if the same situation would occur in the future, you would equip yourself better. That is like with other reaction that you could have done at that moment. And I understand that from where you are coming from, that we feel regretful, like why, as a practical person, why did I do this? But again, we are human beings. So sometimes it is okay to react in a way, but it is in our own capacity to then teach ourselves in a way so that in the future we can't repeat the same responses. Okay. Okay, Akanksha, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I am sorry that I joined a little late and I am just losing little track of the workshop because I have really bad net connection. But I do have a question. I have a question is that how do we understand that we are being triggered by some situation or some certain person or some through actions of some other party? How do we
Okay.
understand that we are being triggered?
Okay. To answer your question, we have to move on to the next slides where I have given an activity to identify how to recognize your triggers. Okay. So I would like to move on. So there are different, before we move on to that, there are different types of triggers. So there are external triggers, that is the external situation can trigger us. So I would like everyone to use the reaction if you have ever feel triggered by this, that is waiting in a long line for a while, missing an important deadline, getting into a conflict. Sometimes loud noises also affect people. We get triggered by that. We often get angry or we get scared by that. Getting an unexpected news, it can be both good and bad. And sometimes financial issues are also some of the core external triggers that evoke certain reactions that is not in our control. Okay, so these are the triggers that is happening outside our body. Now, the next is coming to the internal triggers. That is having a physical sensation. Like sometimes we just don't know, as everyone has pointed out. Like sometimes I feel angry or scared or nervous, but we don't know the entire reason of it. So we have a physical sensation like tingling in our hands or, headaches. Then there is high levels of stress and we don't know for what because it has been going on for a long time. And there is anxiety. Then there are days when we are not feeling good, and if something unexpected happens, we don't deal with it very well. And then feeling unheard or unseen. And lastly and more importantly, memories. Sometimes memories also trigger our reactions. So yes, thank you everyone for your participation. Yes, Ananya, you have raised your hand. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. Just a quick question about the types. Can it be possible, like the if we are feeling some internal triggers, and first of all, can it be possible that we could feel multiple triggers at the same time?
Yes, it is very possible to feel multiple triggers at all times. So, for example, you are not feeling good, and at that moment, you got an unexpected news. So, you can be triggered by both. The intensity may vary, but you can be triggered by both or more than two situations as well.
And the next question is that can it be possible that throughout the day, if we are dealing with some internal triggers, let it be like not feeling good from inside or having a physical sensation, be it like a headache or something, and it can be the root cause of the external triggers that in general, if we would have been in a good mood or in a fine mood, the external triggers would not have had an impact on us.
Yes, if we are in a good mood, the extent of the external triggers would not have that much of an impact if you are in a good mood. So, yes, that is very true what you have said, Ananya, and thank you for sharing that. Yes, Bhuvi, would you like? Yes. Thank you. Bhuvi, would you like to go next?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
How can I deal with sexual trauma triggers?
Okay.
And I mean, if it's emotional triggers or physical sensations I feel because of those attacks.
Yes. So, firstly, Bhuvi, I'm sorry to hear that, and thank you for sharing this and trusting this space. Yes, the sexual trauma or the memories of it can be a lot triggering for some people if they have experienced that, and the intensity of any kind of external situation or be that internal situation would be very different for them as well because something has happened to you. So, there are certain strategies that I have mentioned in the presentation. You can look to it, and if possible, you can try it out. And if you think that it is working out and you want to know more, you also can reach out to me regarding that. Okay. Okay. Akanksha, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I wanted to know, sometimes if you're just, just sitting, okay, and in your day-to-day routine, just randomly you just feel sad, or randomly you just feel anxious or angry. And most of the time, people just quoted that you are just PMSing, especially for women at least. Okay. So I want to know, how can we differentiate the fact that we are PMSing, or it's just normal that through some situation or through some thought we just got triggered and we are feeling some certain emotion.
Yes. So I think when we are PMSing, the thing is the hormonal levels that we had at that time actually varies, and our hormones are also related to how we react to also our emotions. So sometimes that if you are in a good mood, that time you might not be triggered with something, but even if someone is pointing it out that okay you are PMSing, that might also trigger you because you are like why do you have to point it out. So there are some things we have to keep in mind, and again our bodily function and sensation is very attuned and is very connected to our mental part of our body and how we are reacting to it. Okay, so moving on. Yeah. So moving on, now we have talked about emotions and emotional triggering. Now stress goes hand in hand with that. For example, when we are emotionally triggered, for example, Bhuvi has shared something that was so impactful. So sometimes that situation is something that we can't manage to control, or we feel threatened, or we don't know how to cope with it. So stress responses are responses to some negative thoughts or thoughts that we are not in our control, or the physical sensations like palpitations, sweating. Everything that happens during that point feels like the response that is your body is given to that situation. So whenever we are emotionally triggered, if we have the resources to deal with it, then our body prepares in that way. And if we don't have the resources to deal with it, then our body reacts differently. Okay, so moving on. So, can anyone tell me what are your responses to a situation when you feel threatened or under pressure? Yes, Ankita, would you like to go ahead?
यस मैम, अगर मुझे किसी भी सिचुएशन में एक थ्रेटन फील होता है या अंडर प्रेशर फील होता है, तो मेरा सबसे पहले, क्योंकि आई एम प्रैक्टिसिंग मेडिटेशन सिंस 1 ईयर, एंड मुझे ये फील हुआ है कि कामनेस उस टाइम पे इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, यू आर माइंडफुल अबाउट योर दैट सिचुएशन। अगर आपको पता है कि आपका रिस्पॉन्स क्या होने वाला है, आप उसके लिए माइंडफुल हैं, तो आई थिंक मैं काम फील करती हूँ उसके बाद, एंड डीप ब्रीदिंग इज मस्ट।
Okay, that's very good. That's one of the few coping strategies one can use, because when we feel threatened or under pressure, the first thing that affects us is our breathing. And if we can control our breath at that moment, our entire body calms down. And when we calm down, we can think about the situation in a different perspective, and we can clearly come out with some solutions. Yes. Tabia, would you like to go ahead next?
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, when I am in a situation where I'm threatened or I have some pressure on me, maybe my exams or something, I'm not able to complete the task. I kind of try to avoid the task, even though it's really important, or maybe like not able to complete or literally avoid it, or try to
Yeah.
do some other subjects and like that.
Yeah. So, very rightly put, Tabia. And we will be talking about the different stress responses over here. And that is very different to particular people. And it is okay to feel like that. Sometimes we feel like we can't. Work when we are stressed, or we just wanted to let it go, just let it pass. So yes, someone has written, maybe the thought is still running subconsciously in the mind, and it is hard to dissociate completely from the thought as an overthinker. Yes, if you are an overthinker and if you think the situation through, that might affect on how you respond. So now coming to the different types of stress responses. One is fight response, second is flight response, third is freeze response, and the fourth is fawn response. So now what is a fight response? Now fight response is the response when we feel that we can deal with the situation, we have the resources to overcome it. So someone have said that even if they feel anxious, they don't let it affect them. They are in control of themselves and they can deal with the situation. So there are some people who can't deal with the situation, and they might have an intense emotion like crying or an intense feeling of anger or rage. So that is okay, and whatever everyone is saying is very true and acceptable. Different people have different responses to different situations. Okay. Now, coming to the next response, that is a flight response. I think someone has mentioned over here that when they face a threat, they feel like their brain or body prepares them to just run away, like just let the situation pass. And I don't want to do this. So, for example, like if you are working and if your boss has given you an important deadline or an important task that you need to do at that exact moment, your first reaction to that might be, I don't want to do this, I want to run from here. And that is very okay, because the thing is, we are humans and we certain times feel that the situation that comes up to us are not being ready, like we are not prepared for that. So we have to give our body that time to prepare ourselves to deal with that situation. So the next is the freeze response. I think someone has mentioned in the chat box that they just don't know what to do at that moment. So if you get a very unexpected news at that time, you might feel like you just freeze. Did anyone feel this kind of response, like getting a very unexpected news or a bad news, you just don't know how to deal with it and you just froze at that exact moment? You felt rigid, heavy, or stuck, and there is also a sense of dread. Okay. And the last response is the fawn response. So this is applicable if you are in a conflict. For example, like if you are in a conflict with your boss or someone who is superior to you, and if he's saying something and you know at that moment, if you say something that is not according to what your boss is saying, might worsen the situation. So you want to appease at that moment, you want to say okay, and later on you can come back to it and have an open communication with your boss, with your colleague, or with your superiors, that that thing happened, and I think that I didn't do anything wrong, but I just want to point it out. So that can also happen. Someone is asking to please show the freeze slide again. Okay, so this is the freeze response. Okay, someone has raised their hand. Yes, Bhuvi, would you like to go ahead?
Ma'am, I have shared my response in the chat section.
Okay, okay, okay. Ananya, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. A quick question. Can a person feel like a mixture of these responses? Like, for me, recently something happened, and first of all, my response was freeze. And then, after a few minutes, it changed into fight mode, like not the aggressive part, but the crying part. So, can a person have a mixture of responses to a certain situation
Yes,
during the course of time?
yes, absolutely correct. You can always feel a mixture of the responses. For example, you can have the freeze mode, and in that freeze mode, you can think of the situation through, and then you can prepare yourself to, fight with the situation, to prepare your body to cope with that situation. Also, certain times you might feel that I can't deal with that situation, so I might just escape that situation out, and that might help you at that time. So moving on, I think everyone has given their category in which stress responses does their response fall. You can also answer in the chat box. Okay, now coming to what Ananya has already said, so you can always feel a mixture of emotion, and there is no right or wrong response to it. Firstly, different situation needs different responses. Okay, so there is the adaptiveness of every other stress responses. For example, the fight response signifies that you are you are ready to confront the threat. The individual has the strength and the resources to fight to overcome it. But in that exact moment, you might feel that, okay, I would just take a pause, take a breather, and then you would like to deal with it. Think about the problems. Okay. Then the flight response. That is sometimes, escaping the threat is feasible and it leads to safety. So, though you might feel like escaping, yes, escaping is a temporary solution in some cases, but at that moment, just escaping the threat and then coming back to it when you are prepared to deal with the threat can also help you later to deal with that threat. Okay, now the last two responses are the freeze responses. That is, a pause also allow you to have a different perspective of the entire situation, and you can go ahead with planning about the next steps. And the fawn responses is that when the threat is going out of control, you can just de-escalate. You can just at that moment just lay low and have the situation roll out, and then when you come back to it with a different perspective and a logical self, you can point it out that what went wrong and what you could have done differently. Okay, someone is writing, sometimes one response can't seem work while dealing with anxiety and complex triggers. Yes, one response doesn't work. You can have different responses, even multiple responses to just a single situation. And it is, again, also depends on the situation and what is required at that point. So you might be a person who would like to just escape that situation, but that situation might need something else. So you would take a pause and you can think it through and then you can come back to it. Okay, so now we will just move on to an activity to how to recognize your triggers, and as everyone has also pointed it out, how to recognize it, because we are learning about our emotional triggers. So, firstly, we have to notice our body. That is, we have to pay our attention to how our body feels and reacts when we are reacting to a certain situation. So, for example, if someone is feeling grief, they might at that moment might not be able to express at that moment, and when they feel comfortable and open to it, then they can. But at that moment, just notice what your bodily sensation is happening. You might feel a bit numb, you might feel that there is a sense of restlessness, or sometimes you might feel angry even. The next thing is to observe your thoughts. So most of the people in this workshop have said that like we are being triggered by a situation, but at that moment we don't know what triggered us. So we have to notice what our thoughts are appearing at that moment without reacting to them. Like over here, you don't have to react to the situation, but you can think it through. So in order to do that, you can also note down what your thoughts are going on at that moment. You can journal it, you can write it in your chat box, or you can voice record it even. Then the third step is to put on your detective hat. That is, sometimes we just don't know like what triggered us. Some external trigger that wouldn't have triggered us a few days back would trigger now. So why is that? So you have to know about the situation prior to that. For example, you getting unexpected news that might not trigger you on a normal day, but you have been having a series of bad days, or you are not feeling well. So you have to see in a broader perspective, like what happened previous to your triggering. Like what exactly did happen? Were you in a good mood? Were you in a bad mood? Were you restless? Were you anxious? Okay. Okay. Now moving on, I will come back to your questions later. The fourth one is to identify your unmet needs. Now, when we feel triggered, sometimes it is related to the fact some of the needs that are not fulfilled in our life. For example, for some people, it might be they don't feel safe. For some people, it might be they didn't get attention. For some people, it might be there is a need of affection. So, if someone shouts at you, you might get triggered in a way where some other people wouldn't have reacted in that way. But it is again connected to the fact that over the period of time or throughout your life, you have felt that they didn't respect you, or they didn't listen to you or listen to your perspective. Yes, there is like if someone is writing and someone shouts, I would completely age backwards. Yes, sometimes our childhood memories can also affect us. Something might just, as I have pointed it out, it is a emotional button and it is related to our memories. So that situation might come to you, and you can't just, at that moment, that situation is playing through your mind. So, in order to do that, we will talk about certain strategies of how to deal with it. So, the last step, that is having a broader perspective. So, that usually helps to understand the entire situation. So having a broader perspective is that you are separating the situation as a part of many other situations that is happening at that exact moment. For example, there might be some situational factors that might be affecting you at that moment. For example, you are standing in a line. You are a very patient person, but on that day there is tremendous heat and someone behind your line is talking, going on, and though you are trying to hold on to your patience, you can't. So you have to just see what other things are also happening around you. Sometimes we feel that when we are stuck in a certain situation, we feel that we can't move forward with this, that this is the only thing. But that is a part of your life. There are also other parts that is going on where you are succeeding in life, and that is only a part of it where you are not able to overcome it. Okay, so moving on, there is a case study over here. So, Soha, a 29-year-old marketing professional, has recently started experiencing heightened stress and emotional outbursts at work. She feels like her heart rate increases and she does not feel that good whenever she has to be a part of a very high pressure meeting or has to listen to a critical feedback. She often feels incompetent during these times and that she cannot do anything about it. She wants to understand her emotional triggers to manage it better and to improve her overall well being. So, would someone like to try keeping the previous points in mind? How can we help Soha to deal with her emotional triggers? Yes, Ananya?
Ma'am, first of all, what anybody or Soha in this case needs to do is to realize and identify and get aware of her emotional responses and the triggers that are causing it. Because it really happens that when we are actually getting triggered, we realize that and realize the root causes of why we are getting emotionally triggered. So the first
Yes.
step could be to get aware of why and in what situations particularly or on what days she is feeling that heightened emotions of stress and outbursts.
Okay. Okay. Very rightly put that she has to be. Ananya, would you mute your mic? Yes. Thank you so much. So, as rightly put by Ananya, she has to be self aware about it and then accept the situation. Like, this is something that is triggering her, and that is okay. And then we have to move on to the point that where she can deal with it. Yes, Deepika, would you like to go ahead?
Good, good afternoon. I
Yes.
will
Good
answer
afternoon.
emotions. Like the client can also practice mindfulness because she is suffering from high pressure and like high stress and all. She can like practice positive self talks and some meditation. I know for someone suffering from high stress, meditation can be really like triggering in like for some moment, but she can use like there are a lot of YouTube channels which offers like positive self-talks and some like nature-related videos that calm your mind, and she can like prepare for meeting in advance to like cause less stress which triggers her. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Very rightly put. Mindfulness meditation, or practicing some self-compassion techniques to with her can also help her deal with the situation. And we will be coming to that. And so, in order to do that, I have divided the case study into the different points. That is, noticing her bodily reactions. So, first she observed there is increased heart rate, there is a tightness in chest and shallow breathing. Then she has to observe the thoughts, like some of the common thoughts that goes on. There is a recurring pattern of it that she has self doubt about herself. So, as Ananya and Deepika has rightly put, you can practice some strategies to overcome that. Okay, now the next one is noting the situation prior to it. Like she notices a recurring theme. Like whenever she has to do any high pressure meeting or receive any critical feedback, she feels emotionally triggered. Now, then she again tries to identify, okay, why she's getting triggered by that, because she feels that there is a need for validation. She wants external validation. So and when we rely on external validation, sometimes it disappoints us. So for that, we need to perform some self-compassion techniques. So self-compassion is nothing. It's just showing kindness towards yourself, that it is okay. Sometimes there are situations where we can't handle, but we will overcome it. Okay. And lastly, the broader perspective, that is, she considers the following, that is, there are long term goals. This one meeting doesn't define the entire life or the entire achievement that she has succeeded in her work life. And also, getting the feedback or doing high pressure meetings can also be a learning opportunities for them, for her. Okay, so now when you are emotionally triggered, there is likely a good explanation of why you feel that way. Even at that moment, you might not know the exact reason, but when you look back and when you think it through about the entire situation, by noticing your bodily reaction, by noticing your thoughts, by even identifying your needs of what has triggered that, and getting a broader perspective can really help you to understand why you felt that way, how you felt in that situation. Okay. So now coming to the coping strategies. So would anyone like to share? Shabana, would you like to go ahead? Because some of the coping strategies have already been shared. Shabana?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything. It was my mistake.
Okay. Akanksha, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. So I think in such a situation where we feel threatened or we feel under pressure, we could just take take a few seconds
Yeah.
and recollect all the things which has happened in the situation and take a minimum like 2 second pause, think about it and then respond it. Instead just responding on the tips of your hands, right? Like all of a sudden you just feel something and you react, right? So instead of reacting then and there, we can just take a few seconds, analyze it, and maybe if we are not able to react also or we don't feel like reacting, we can, genuinely just say that right now I don't want to talk about it or something like that, maybe.
Yes. So, very rightly put, Akanksha. Sometimes we don't want to talk about it at that exact moment, and then we might want to take some time for ourselves, and we can practice some techniques like deep breathing. Someone has mentioned it over here, meditation, or sometimes social support. Social support also helps us tremendously in overcoming any kind of triggering situation, or when we feel that we are alone in this situation. So they might help you feel in a very positive way. So now, coming to the coping strategies. Now, we have talked about self awareness. So, what is actually self awareness? Self awareness is nothing, it's just being aware of yourself. So, when you are feeling sad, you name it that I am feeling sad. When you are feeling happy, you name it that I am happy. Now, why you are feeling sad and why you are feeling happy, note that. That would help you, that these are the things that makes me happy, these are the things that make me sad. That might help you to regulate your emotion. Now, everyone has talked about mindfulness and also breathing techniques. So now what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is nothing but just to stay in the present. Now, it might sound simpler when I say it, but it is not that. So whenever we are emotionally triggered, the situation or that thing goes on in our mind again and again. So we are not actually in the present. In our head, we are somewhere else. So when we bring ourselves back in the present by taking notice of our surrounding, by doing a grounding technique, by noticing what all are the things that is around us, what all are the people who are around us, might help you to get back to the present scenario. And also by letting your breath control. So I have pointed this out earlier, and everyone has also mentioned it. Breathing is firstly affected whenever we feel triggered. So if you can control your breathing at that moment, you might feel a lot calmer. And when you feel calmer, you can see the entire situation from a different perspective and you can deal with it logically. Okay, now coming to the cognitive reappraisal. So, what is a cognitive reappraisal? It is nothing. So, when you have calmed down, you would like to see the situation from another perspective. So, it is not just that you are the only person in that situation. You are seeing it from a third perspective view. That is what could have happened if I was not the person who was affected in that situation. So how you might advise your friend to deal with that situation. So you are advising yourself only to do those things. That is cognitive reappraisal. Now self compassion. Someone has wrote in the chat box, how can we practice self compassion? So you can maintain a gratitude journal. You can also practice some positive affirmation. It can be three, like just standing in front of the mirror, you can say three positive things like I am strong, I am beautiful, I can deal with this. And if you practice it every day, you might start believing in that, and that gives you the inner strength to deal with that situation. Then also some breathing techniques also help. And lastly, the professional support. So these are the things that I have said till to this, that these are some coping strategies that you can try out by yourself. But there are some people who still trying this out, that still it is not working out, still you are feeling the same. So then it is okay. Consult a therapist or a professional. As I have also pointed out, MindTribe offers it, and you can also reach out to me. And in this workshop, we will learn at the end a breathing technique as well. So that might also help you the next time you are emotionally triggered. Okay, so Himanshu, someone has raised their hand. Yes, Himanshu, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, so thank you, ma'am. Actually, I just wanted to tell you, कि as you said, कि the mirror exercise, when you are
Yeah.
saying you are strong, you are beautiful, all those things,
Yeah.
so you will start believing in this. But suppose that someone is saying all those things, कि he is a super strong, he has faced a lot, he has come out from the past traumas and the triggers, they have faced a lot, but their the actual behavior is not matching with their words. They are not ready to communicate and explain the things and getting in the clarity. So if such kind of person is behaving, claiming they are strong, they are gentle, they are pure kind of soul, if somebody is claiming like this but their action is not matching their words, so is it there is a false sense of ego, or they are just living in their own shell?
Okay. Firstly, Himanshu, the thing that I have mentioned, it doesn't work in just one day only. It is a gradual process towards it. So today you start doing this positive affirmations thing. So firstly, this is a process and it's a gradual one. You have to come in terms with it, accept it. So you might be saying it out loud, and but still your actions will be contradicting to yourself because you have not accepted it fully. Once you accept it, still the reactions might contradict because that is the reaction that you have been trained to, or you have been, accustomed to. So that is like modifying your reaction, and that takes time. So it is not always living your own shell, it is also coming to terms with it, and that takes time. So for that, you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to practice it every day. And once you think that, okay, this day is not happening, you don't have the urge to give it up at that moment. That is, you can try it the next day, because anything, when we are managing our behavior, it also start from us, from our willingness to change. And if it is still going out of control, then again, you have to consult a professional for that. Okay.
Okay, one more thing, if you'll
Yeah.
allow me, and this was
Yeah.
not associated with me, but I faced this situation, and later on, I just got to hear that you are a mentally weak person, you are a not mentally strong person. So because of the when the somebody's action, so I was just thinking about, I was started trusting ki if somebody is saying again and again and again, you are a toxic person. So because of that reason, I just wanted to clarify the things ki this is reality I am facing, whatever the person who is in front of me saying this, or it's just their misconception they have created in their mind because their words are not matching with their action and they are completely telling lies. So because of that reason, I just raised this my concern.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And yes, sometimes what we say don't match with our actions, and it is on ourselves that we truly believe on what we say. So it doesn't matter if the other person is saying something that is contradicting to the way that he is behaving. At the end of the day, you have to return home to yourself. So you have to know what's your truth. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So now we are coming towards the end of the session. So today, let us learn one mindfulness coping strategy in this workshop. Everyone is ready for it? Please give a thumbs up. Okay, I'm receiving a lot of thumbs up. Okay. So, this is a box breathing technique. I am sure most of you have heard about it and some of you haven't. So, just bear with me with the instruction. So, step one is to breathe in, counting to four slowly. And step two is to hold your breath for 4 seconds. Step three is to slowly exhale out the air for 4 seconds. And then step four is to pause for 4 seconds. So, are you ready? Would you like to try this out with me? Okay, so ready? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Slowly exhale out, 2, 3, 4. And then pause, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I would like to do a feeling check right now. So you guys have to type it out in the chat box how you are feeling right now after doing this breathing exercise. I know it was short, but still you might have felt something. So not calm at all, same as before, calm and relaxed. Okay, someone has said calm, calm, relaxed. Mm, That's great. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Now, this is one of the breathing techniques that you can apply in when you are emotionally triggered, stressed, or anxious. It might help you to calm yourself down at that moment. But again, if you feel like that is not working, there are always other breathing techniques that we provide at MindTribe through our counseling sessions. So you can reach out to it. So as you have felt a lot calmer doing this one breathing exercise, you can also will feel a lot calmer when you will get a personalized breathing exercise only catering to you. Okay. So now the conclusion, that is unmasking your triggers can help you understand yourself better. We have learned some coping strategies in this workshop, that is self-awareness, mindfulness practice. We have done a breathing exercise over here, self-compassion, which will help to emotional management. And then lastly, we have learned that if our coping strategies fail, it is okay to reach out to a therapeutic support. Okay. So if anyone has any question right now, I would like to take it. I see that lot of people have raised their hand. Yes, Sandhya, would you like to go ahead?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Uh, Ma'am, whenever I feel threatened or upset or someone triggered my weakness, I feel like so frustrated and I start to break things, whichever that is around me. And I know that before, as soon as they trigger me, I feel like so anxious and I used to break the things apart. What can I do to control that? Or I have that 5 minutes, but in that 5 minutes, I can't process that and I can't